I'm Michael Leckie. I'm a consultant, a speaker, and an advisor, and also an author. And I help organizations build the human capabilities that change them for good. And this is my friend Mark Bowden.
Hi, Mark Bowden, expert in human behavior and body language. I help people all over the world to stand out, win trust, gain credibility every time they communicate, including some of the leaders of the G7. So, Michael Leckie, tell people what it is we do together.
What we do together is we help great leaders become transformational leaders. And that's a big leap. And what we're going to talk about today is some of the things, well, in this video, one of the things that gets in the way of moving from being a truly great leader to a truly transformational leader. And that's that being a player and being a coach is different. So you're moving into the CEO role, you're moving into the lead role for the first time or with a new company. And you have been a player before, and you've been a player at a very senior level. And now you're expected to coach the other players. And it's a very, very different skill set. And quite frankly, most people don't make the transition effectively. They kind of stay where they're at and they do the same things that they've been doing, hoping it's going to work again. What's really almost insidious, even though it's wonderful, I think, about becoming a CEO, is that everything that got you to that point doesn't get you where you need to go. And I know that's somebody else's book and it's a great book, but it's so true. I mean, Mark, in your experience, what are some of the things that happen to CEO players who then who move into that CEO coach role where they don't make the transition or where they struggle?
So look, this is a classic, and you see it at every level of that higher level of leadership is imposter syndrome. Okay, so you know, and what I always say to people is, if you're feeling that, it's a good thing, because it tends to only occur around really high performers. I mean, I've even had as clients people who are literally gold medal winning athletes who have imposter syndrome around that ability. Yeah, so we know they're literally super performers, and yet still there is that anxiety around, you will be found out, you will be seen to not perform. And what's beautiful about that is it really comes from a real care. It really does. But, you know, it's how do you get around that? How do you manage that? Will you ever conquer it? Well, I kind of hope not. Because I hope you want to keep progressing. I hope you want to keep moving forward. I hope if you become CEO of an incredible company, you then want to move to the boards of even more incredible companies so that you can have real impact across the parts of the planet that matter most to you, the people that matter most. So we're not about alleviating any of these symptoms. We're about helping you manage at the top level those symptoms. Who can you have? You know, there's conversations around what your deepest anxieties are around these, because that's the way you manage it, is not to brush it under the carpet. You know, it's about getting it out. And of course, you know, it does beg the question, you know, who can you have that kind of so important conversation with? I mean, thoughts, Michael, you know, who's out there for that?
Yeah, well, you know, it's interesting to ask that question, because you're talking about kind of the more personal, intimate aspect of my own anxieties and fears about me in a role, even though I've achieved great heights. And you're also talking about the outside world that you're dealing with in a much bigger way. You're a spokesperson, you're on stage, you're an actor, you're a performer, you're a debater, you're a politician, you're all these things. The world that you're responsible for is not inside just that organization, even though it's going to demand nearly all of your time. It's outside that organization. So where can you talk safely? You have to have a secure space. Now, there are different places you can do that. You may have developed a circle of friends or peers, a mastermind group. There's a lot of things that can be done. Here's the biggest problem with them, is they take time to set up the rules and set up the game. You can get an executive coach. And by the way, we both do executive coaching for major executives and leaders around the globe. But here's what our solution is to this, is we do it differently because we do it together. One of the things that we realize is getting together, building on the two kind of skill sets and backgrounds that we have, that we're able to really create an environment in which people can really think through, how do I need to show up for me, for my team, for my organization, and for the rest of the world to really be in this leadership role and be effective. And so if you're working with us, we do is we talk every week. We are there more or less on call when the stuff hits the fan, when you have an interaction, when there's an emergency, when something pops up, because face it, being in the CEO role is basically just flying a plane that's having multiple, malfunctions, failures, and weather emergencies all day long. So that's what we're here for. That's what we try and do, is to help you have that safe place in which you can figure out your identity for you and how you're going to deliver on that for your team, for your organization, and for the world around you. So if you're interested in that, we would love to hear from you, have a conversation. We take on very few clients, a handful, maybe 3 or 4 in a given year that we work with, and we dedicate our time to them, build a relationship, and try and make something truly powerful happen to help great leaders become transformative leaders.